Hello, and welcome back to another episode of White Album 2's light novel series. We are reading through Volume 1, continuing on from last time. They've finally gathered at Touma's studio, or Studio Touma, as they mentioned it earlier. I love that name. They've gathered, and now they're practicing. They finally nailed White Album 2. And now they want to do a new song. The problem is, the new song has this really complex guitar solo, but Setsuna is insisting on doing that song, despite Haruki's inability to play the guitar at a competent enough level. So now they're starting their practice. Let's move on and see how it goes. As I was in the midst of it, I suddenly found myself unable to keep from thinking about the solo, and every time that happened, I made an attempt, but I could handle maybe 5 seconds at most. From the beginning, my fingers' movements refused to line up. Whether I tried playing the solo on its own, whether I started from the intro and tried to come at it with the momentum of the whole song, the result was the same. Our dinner, corner store lunchboxes, Ogiso had offered to whip up something simple, but Touma shot her down and told her to practice instead was over. I continued on in my attempts, but I failed to breach the 7-second wall even once. What a run-on sentence that was. That is terrible. I tried forcing my way through it, with no regard for mistakes, but that just exhausted me. Seriously, how was I supposed to handle this? And keep in mind, they only have 7 days until the show. Technically, since it's nighttime now, probably 6, so that's crazy. I looked at my watch, wondering when Touma would start working with me, and found that it was 11:30 at night. Hey, Kitahara. When she called to me, I took off my headphones to answer. Oh, are you going to listen to me rehearse? Finally, I thought, but that was only for a moment. And then Touma said something I didn't expect. No, come over here. We're all going to play together. Huh? Already? After all the practicing she made us do before we tried White Album together? Get over here. All right. No arguing. I headed over to the piano and plugged my guitar into the amp. Sorry, Ogiso, I can still barely play this, so I might get in the way of your singing. Kitahara-kun, do you really think that? Yes, I do. Why? Did I look particularly proud of myself or something? But Ogiso didn't answer, instead exchanging a meaningful look with Touma. Well, Touma-san. Yeah, just like you, Kitahara. What are you two talking about? Still bewildered, I followed Touma's cue and gripped the neck of the guitar. Using the piano melody before the intro as a guide, in place of a count, I plunged in with the guitar. The drops of sound tapped out the song's nimble tempo like a flight of stairs, and it began. After the bouncing rhythm resolved itself, it burst open yet again, and at that same moment, the voice came in. I had heard Ogiso sing so many times. I had heard Sound of Destiny itself plenty of times. In fact, while I was at karaoke with her. But for some reason, just because my own guitar was part of the picture now, the sound that reached my ears felt different somehow. And I agree, you could hear the same song a million times, but if you sing it with your friends, or you're just goofing off with your friends, or you hear it on the car radio during a road trip, it hits differently, depending on the situation you're in. That's the beauty of music. And so Haruki is truly feeling that now. Her voice passed through the microphone and flowed out of the vocal speaker. The piano continued to beat out its rhythm with unparalleled precision, and the steel strings between their two lavish companions continued to wail away. And finally, the vocals reached their end, and the ultimate climax arrived. And it was a disaster. Damn it. No. That buildup was so good, especially in the novel format when it's like, it's good, it's going. Nope. Poor Haruki. I had hoped I would be able to force through it with the combined momentum of all three of us, but it hadn't been that generous. I stuttered all the way through, and at one point I stopped being able to tell whether I was playing with the pick or my fingers. Ogiso glanced between me and Touma, looking like she wanted to say something. Sorry, Ogiso. See? That was terrible, just like I said. Kitahara-kun? That must have been hard to sing. I'm sorry. Man, I'm not sure I'll be able to do this. Stop. Kitahara-kun, you played it just fine. It was super easy to sing with. You don't have to be that considerate, seriously. Ugh, you're way too humble. Kitahara-kun. Touma-san. With the ball in her court now, Touma looked at me. Surely she would be straightforward with me. Kitahara, the solo part was terrible. It was a complete mess. Just like I thought. Nice and honest. You were making mistakes all over the place. You weren't keeping up, and you gave up on too many parts. It would sound better if we just played the CD. However, apart from that, you actually kind of managed it. At the very least, you didn't hinder Ogiso. Huh? I hadn't remotely expected this assessment. Aw, he did a good job. I mean, sure, the solo is hard, but the rest of the song, since he can play guitar, you can kind of follow along with the sheet music, hopefully. You played it, Kitahara-kun. You played very well. Ogiso grinned. I think you were only focusing on the solo, Kitahara. I hadn't realized until she pointed it out. Had I made it through the rest of the song without making any mistakes? Even while you were rehearsing with your headphones on, you were playing it right. I'm no expert, but I could tell just from hearing how the strings sounded. You played it all the way through a few times, remember? I guess, but how did I... That's why I told you to practice for 10 hours a day. Touma chuckled. Did that mean... Kitahara-kun, you've gotten good at this. You can memorize the simple parts easily now. Seriously? If you make a mess of the scales, you won't improve. Understand? Touma grinned. Was it because I laid that groundwork? Now that I thought about it, somewhere along the way, my fingers had learned how to handle the chords on their own, even if my head didn't comprehend them. Oh, wow! Thank you, Professor Touma. Stupid. It's too soon to celebrate. Touma gave a shrug of exasperation. He's improved, and that's something to be proud of, Haruki. Now, hopefully, the remaining 7 days, Haruki can just focus on the hard part. Because if he had to focus on the whole song, I truly think that would have been impossible. But just that part, I think he can do it. That's right. No matter how good the rest of it sounded, if I wanted to perfect this song, there was a major hurdle left to clear. So, it's just down to the solo now. You can do it, Kitahara-kun. I'm not all that confident. Do it anyway. I'll watch you. Alrighty. Ogiso stretched her arms. I'll go take a bath then. I told you where the bathroom was before. You can use whatever shampoo and stuff you need. Thanks. Touma-san, why don't you come with me? We're finally spending the night together and all. What did she mean, finally? Nope. If one of us doesn't keep an eye on him, Kitahara will peek. What the hell, Touma? Without me here, Kitahara will come and look in on you while you're in the bath, Ogiso. Will you? Ogiso peered at me. It looked like she might be blushing slightly. No, I wouldn't, I swear to God. How am I supposed to feel with you insisting like that? What am I supposed to say? Just be honest and say you're dying to look. Why did she have to declare what my honest feelings were? Damn it. Oh. It's so funny because she can't straight up say, yeah, he peeked while I was changing, because then she would know he slept over. But she's definitely thinking it. Now that Ogiso had gone to take a bath, I started practicing the solo with Touma. But I could only manage 5 or 6 seconds of it at most. The solo was almost a minute long. You're rushing. Give me that. Touma's fingers went through the first 10 seconds over and over. Her pick handling was perfect. Like this. Try it slowly to start. You're really something else. She's trying to teach him 10 seconds at a time, but a minute long, that's a really long solo for a beginner guitar player. With Touma right there, I started to feel as though my efforts were in vain. This is nothing big. I've just been working with the guitar for longer than you have. Yeah, but still, you're just different from me, I feel like. Idiot, of course I am. I'm not you. Fair enough. And it's true the other way around. You're bad at the guitar, but your grades are good. I'm closer to the bottom than the top by a long shot. That's not really anything to brag about. Anyway, that's from a simple lack of studying, isn't it? I could turn that back to you word for word. Good point. If I didn't try, I would stay as I was. If I did, the possibilities grew. This is a thing. I feel like I've heard this from a lot of artists from a lot of different art and music industries. When someone praises you and says, oh, you have such natural talent, you're a natural, this, that, it's almost an insult to the amount of effort that you've put in. People are like, oh, I wish I was born with that innate ability. But 90% of the time, it's just because they worked really, really hard, and you're discrediting that. So you should never say something like that. And I'm glad Touma mentioned that, no, it's just because of hard work. Yes, that's what comes after talent. Yeah, you know, you're really cool, Touma. What's that, a compliment? I'm tired. Could just be sleep babbling. Touma shook her head in exasperation, but still smiled. If you're tired, go to sleep. You can start practicing tomorrow morning. I can do a bit more. I want to be cool too. Yeah, right. Oh, he wants to be cool. That's such a cute sentence. You can. I had laughed it off, but Touma looked hard at me. If you can play that guitar solo, you'll be cool. If that's what you want, I'll make it happen somehow. I'll whip you into shape so you can play it. Touma, after staying here this whole past week, you've reached the point where you can play White Album. You're getting results. She went on. Stay over here for this coming week too. I'll go even harder on you than this past week. I'll work you to death practicing every day. On your own, you might not have any hope, but with me, either you'll die or you'll learn to play it. With the understanding, of course, that I would do everything she said. Touma smiled. Another dangerous proposition unless they tell Setsuna what the heck's been going on. Because another week at Touma's house, do you not think she's going to eventually catch on? Though the fact that she was letting me spend all these nights so readily made me think she wasn't really acknowledging me as a guy, which was a little frustrating. Just a little. But I didn't have a single reason to refuse. I'm in your hands, Professor. She definitely thinks of him as a guy. What about that comment she made that he's going to peek on you? That's very guyish. You're leaving it to me? Here, if you're going to keep playing, do it. All right. I took hold of the neck again and let the first chord ring out. Setsuna's Peace. Da-da, da-da-da. She shrugged off her cardigan, mindlessly humming the tune of Sound of Destiny to herself. The size of the Touma house was far beyond ordinary. The changing room, with its washstand, was a size apart from that at Setsuna's home. It was the same for the bathroom, and the automatically heating bathtub could probably fit 3 people easily. Setsuna may have been a pampered young lady in image, but Kazusa outstripped her by far in that department. She found herself smiling at the thought. This was fun. How many years has it been since she'd enjoyed herself like this? She had completely forgotten this feeling. In all of her time as a high school student, she hadn't once had a blast like this in the company of someone else. Everyone facing the same direction, running at full speed, raising a racket together, though they might deviate here and there. Setsuna adored that feeling of unity with her friends. I feel so bad for her, because not having friends for so long because everyone looks up to you like that is really too bad. And I give Setsuna kind of a hard time because I do think part of it is her fault for maintaining that image. If she just gave up on it, it would have been fine, I feel, but everybody deserves friends. She'd had friends in middle school, friends she loved, friends she did everything with, friends who had all crammed together into Setsuna's far narrower bathtub with her. Every day was fun, laughing together, enjoying life together, but at some point, she had stopped singing. She still couldn't understand why all of that had been an illusion. But, with no desire to experience it again, Setsuna had changed herself. She had kept her distance, determined not to become deeply involved with anyone else. Well, that changed quickly because she pretty much just met Haruki and then dumped her life story on him. And somewhere along the way, she had gained this perception as a pampered young lady from those around her. Wealthy, well-mannered, reserved, perfect. And what was the point? She smiled bitterly. Her real self was a perfectly ordinary girl, the kind you could find anywhere. Sure, the lie had been successful, you could say, but it made her feel strangely lonely too. The Setsuna Ogiso everyone treated so specially, sang the praises of, adored, was a simple sham. And the fact that she couldn't tell anyone this, the fact that she was playing this sham role, made her feel lonely. Always, always. But then, he had appeared. The one who looked at her differently from everyone else. Haruki gets propped up on this big pedestal for pretty much doing nothing. He never talked to her, he never did anything. He just didn't freak out when he saw her in the shopping district. That was literally it. That's the only thing he did differently. Even once he knew her secrets, he remained considerate of her wishes, kept it all shut away in his heart. He wasn't seeing the pampered girl or Miss Hojo High. He just saw Setsuna, pure and simple. He had praised her singing, the one thing she could rely on, and he had done everything to become her friend. When she heard him talk about his goals, she couldn't help but enjoy the idea. She had developed something of an interest in him, too. This is a lot of exposition for things we kind of already know. We know all this. You don't have to spell it out exactly. Let the reader make their own insinuations sometimes, is what I feel here. And so, Setsuna decided to let herself get close to another person again. And it all came back to her. The joy and delight that she could never experience alone. Even when she became aware of an unexpected miscalculation, there was no turning back. In fact, she realized she wanted to get closer to her too. The fact the three of them spent together, or the time the three of them spent together, had become something irreplaceable to Setsuna. Of course, she knew what was ultimately awaiting them. But she wanted things to stay this way, just for a bit. She sighed quietly. She knows what's gonna happen because it's already kind of happening, that quiet jealousy. It's hard to stay a trio when both people are in love, when all of them are in love in a way, in a sense. She sighed quietly. As she was removing her hair ties, preparing to bathe, her head banged into the sink shelf. Her hand, her head, that would have hurt. Her hand banged into the sink shelf. The impact knocked the cabinet door completely open. Ow! It opened! She hadn't meant to look. She was just bending down to pick up her fallen hair tie before shutting the door. If it weren't for that, if she hadn't been running her eyes up and down. What? She would never have seen the men's razor lying inconspicuously at the very back of the bottom shelf. I'll make it happen somehow. I'll whip you into shape so you can play it. After staying here this whole past week, stay over here for this coming week too. I'll go even harder on you than this past week. I'll work you to death practicing every day. I'm in your hands, Professor. There was light spilling out through the crack beneath the basement door. Voices spilling out. Setsuna couldn't open the door. Oh, this is what happens when you keep secrets. My God. And as the reader, we knew it was coming, but it doesn't make it hurt any less. God, why are they so dumb? It shouldn't have ever been a secret. It literally Very frustrating. She climbed the dark stairs and returned to the changing room. The moment she shut the open cabinet, all the strength went out of her legs, and she sank to the floor. After a few moments, she muttered to herself, "So that's how it is." He, who had shown such miraculous improvement all on his own. She, who had said things were going according to schedule, even though there was so little time. So, that was how it was. Oh, she's just in disbelief that her friends would keep such a secret from her, which, truthfully, it's not even that big a secret. But if you keep it a secret, it makes it worse because you think, well, why would they keep it a secret? Oh, clearly there's more going on than they're even talking about, Just terrible. The friends she was working so hard with. The precious friends Setsuna had decided to let herself trust in again, all running toward the same goal. The three of them. The three of them. This part is so hard. Because it's the very first time Setsuna's really tasting that betrayal. The first time that the trio triangle, has really started to shift. So rough. But the show must go on, so continuing on, WA2 Light Novel Volume 1, Session 15, 6 Days Until the Show. Kazusa's Peace. What? What are you talking about, Kitahara? Kazusa's brow furrowed at his sudden proposition. On the second day of their stay, as they were eating the corner store box lunches following morning rehearsal, he had spoken up. Come on, let's do it. Everyone will be stunned. As he grinned like a child, Kazusa hunched her shoulders. Why is that necessary? We can't make a change like that with so little time left. Time isn't a problem for you, though, is it? Don't try to force this on me by pretending to have confidence in me. It's annoying. The proposition was that Kazusa should play the saxophone part in White Album. Not all the way through, though. She was to switch from the keyboard to the saxophone for the end. It could be possible if they simply adjusted the synth programming for that part, but she still didn't understand why. Well, as things are now, you don't get to show off at all. Ogiso has her vocals, which I hardly need mention. And even I have that solo for Sound of Destiny. Yes, that's true. Oh, you too, Ogiso? She sighed heavily. This is a scene that wasn't in the game also. Because in the game, yes, Kazusa does play the saxophone, but they never discuss it. So hearing this behind the scenes discussion is kind of interesting. It was true that, unlike the other parts, the keyboard wasn't really an instrument that ever came to the forefront. But Kazusa didn't care about that. You're already struggling with your own showcase. I'm not all that interested in standing out. Don't say that. Why don't you do it? When she gave him a questioning glare, he answered, looking slightly flustered. Maybe I'm just being selfish about this, but I want to show off for everyone. I want them to know just how excellent we are. I want to show them that we have a truly formidable keyboardist. Kitahara. She knew he didn't mean it that way. God, this guy was annoying, and she was stuck with him. He says the nicest things out of the blue without even realizing how genuine that compliment was. He just kind of says it. That's the kind of guy he is. Or would that not be possible even for you, Touma? What a stupid strategy here. Oh, I think you can't do it. I think you can't do it. Disgustingly annoying. And yet, some part of her could accept that. So, Kazusa stepped up to this simple challenge. I never said it wasn't possible. That's an okay then. We should try practicing it with the saxophone this afternoon. I said I could do it, not that I... You know what? Fine. Whatever. Fine. She shook her head with a tired look on her face, a show of having been overwhelmed. Really, they were already out of time. She had received something from the club chief the day before, but she also didn't want to deal with this pushiness anymore. If he was going to insist this far, she might as well do it. In her mind, Kazusa muttered, "Cripes." Even though she acts like she really doesn't want to do it and she really doesn't like the attention, she kind of does. At least from Haruki, she wants that attention. After lunch, Setsuna brought in 2 cups, declaring that she had made tea. I brought a few tea bags with me. I thought it might be better than coffee. Thanks. Where's Kitahara? He said he was going for a walk to help him digest. Ah. After adding a heaping spoonful of sugar to her tea, she sipped it quietly. The aroma of Darjeeling filled the room. Oh yeah. Ogiso, did you get enough sleep last night? Huh? Why do you ask? Your voice has barely been there since this morning. I thought you might be tired. It's all small and tight without its usual bounce. Maybe he hadn't noticed, but to Kazusa, who had heard so much of Setsuna's voice, it had been clear immediately. Aww. I mean, Haruki has heard a lot of Setsuna's voice too, but I guess Kazusa has that musical ear, so she can pick up on it easily. Really? You didn't notice? Well, we did rehearse a ton yesterday, and sometimes that can happen with a change in environment. I'm not worried, but let me know right away if you think you're hurting your throat. Okay. Setsuna quietly dropped her eyes. She had noticed one other thing this morning, that Setsuna was speaking a lot less in general than she normally did. Hey, Ogiso. Kitahara-kun. Just as she was on the point of asking her question, Setsuna spoke over her. He's gotten really good, hasn't he? He's improved a lot. He's a little better, but the second he gets careless and makes a mistake, so he can't relax just yet. He's got that solo too. Compared with your singing, there's insecurity all over the place. And that's why you've been keeping an eye on him? To the point of having him sleep here this whole time? I'm not keeping... She started to react. Then it hit her. Oh, you know what? I'm big proud of Setsuna for bringing this up, though, because a lot of people would just keep that hurt inside for a long time. For Setsuna to bring it up the next day, like, good for her. She deserves some answers. Last night wasn't Kita Harukun's first time staying here, right? It's happened before. He's probably spent the whole past week practicing here every night, right? Here with his teacher. That's why he's improved so much. Setsuna's eyes were fixed on Kazusa. It seemed as if everything had been found out. I wasn't trying to hide it from you or anything, even if I didn't mention it. That was true. No, it wasn't true. She was absolutely hiding it. If he didn't want to bring it up, she was fine with that. She just hadn't felt especially inclined to talk about it. For some reason. For some reason. Oh, it's so awkward. Okay, before we get any deeper into this emotional fight, I'm going to stop it here for today. So, thank you so much for being here with me on this episode of White Album 2's light novel reading, and I'll be back to you with more content shortly. So until then, I hope you take care. See you!